Let's be honest, there's no guidebook when it comes to relationships. So we end up having to stumble through life trying to figure things out for ourselves. What if there was a podcast that found the answers for you, that provided insight to build a successful relationship and ultimately find the companionship you've always hoped for? Welcome to the Girls Ask Guys show, where we answer the questions most people are afraid to ask when it comes to lessons in life and love. It's time to master this thing called life together with your hosts, John and Ashley.
And welcome back to the Girls Ask Guys show, where we are your guide for dating, love, life, business, earthquakes, weather, coronavirus, and everything else in between. Going to lighten the mood up here in the beginning because we're about to dive deep into a topic that we didn't include it in the show that we did 2 weeks ago, primarily because it takes an entire episode just on its own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's insane.
Yep.
Here's what we didn't include in that episode. Why? Because this section takes a lot to cover, and we want to give you the best of the best. Whether it's the podcast or the course, we want to make sure that we're very thorough in everything. So here's what truly sets us apart from everyone else out there. This is basically what makes us exclusive.
See, the other coaches and their programs, their books, their courses, and whatnot, they focus mainly on performance of what you need to do. So what we're alluding to here is, here's a script. You need to use the script. Here's a technique or an action when you're talking with somebody. You need to use the technique or you need to use the action in order to get the results that you want. All of that, it's patchwork. And we cover some of that stuff because in certain areas, it's important. So if I'm talking to a girl, then at certain points when I can see her interacting or discussing things and her tonality, her body language and everything, it's important that I actually do reach over and I touch her arm because that's going to reassure her that I'm with her, that I'm paying attention, and that I'm understanding. So that stuff, it's important, but it's only one small piece of the puzzle. Part of the real magic and how we get our relationships to go so deep so quickly is contained in what we are about to share with you. This is, again, part of our secret sauce. This is how we can say we have saved marriages that were on the rocks when they've been married for 20 or 30 years. How we can say that we help new couples build lasting relationships. How the single people that we work with, they're able to get out there, they're able to meet and build a relationship that is worth having.
Yeah, I'd say in order to get the relationship you want, you have to go beyond all the performance. Gaining attention, the approach, the transition, the getting to know you conversation, that's all performance. And the majority of the people out there are telling you, all you have to do is this and you'll be fine. And truthfully, that's not it. If you have been listening to us for any number of weeks, you know for a fact that we're creating a symphony here. We're creating a rock band, if you will. And you have to have multiple instruments. The performance aspect is just simply the drums. The drums are awesome. Don't get me wrong. We all love the drums. But if you want a band, you might want to add like a lead singer, a bass guitar, a harmonica, if you will. Probably an entire drum kit. But what do I know?
Yeah, if you're actually just sitting up on stage and it's you sitting on a stool and all you have is a kick drum, you don't have a band.
Right. You have a kick drum and you're probably getting on people's nerves.
Yeah, all they're going to hear is dum, 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 dum. Maybe you might throw a triplet, dum, 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 but that's it. You don't have a song. You don't even have a bass line. You just have a part of a beat. It's not even a full beat.
You just have a doom. Yeah, and it sounds cool. You know, like for the first maybe 10 seconds, everyone's going to be nodding their head. But then they're going to slowly notice you only have one tool in your arsenal and they're going to drop off.
You need to understand that there are all of the other little things that go into music that we call a relationship. Love and desire is not something that is a measurable thing that we can just tick off a box and someone is going to instantly trust you. You can't do or say one thing and someone is instantly just going to open up and spill all of their secrets with you. Building a relationship doesn't just happen. It's intentionally built by both people. Waiting and hoping that the other person is going to finally somehow get it someday and magically see what you want, see what you need, understand what you desire is a myth.
Hello.
To build intimacy and sexuality in a relationship that can stand the test of time and remain from the day that you meet them to your last day on earth takes understanding all the small areas people do not talk about.
Yeah.
Relationships are more than a solitary experience that starts passionate, and people believe for some reason that once you decide to become exclusive, enter a long-term relationship, get married, it only has one trajectory, down.
Mm-hmm. That's it. And your relationships don't just have to fade into being comfortable with someone. They don't have to be you and someone else simply coexisting together, even under the same roof while also sharing the same bed. Believe it or not, it can be full of passion and desire. And the person you're with can want to desire you just as much as you want to desire them. And that can go on for a while. And that is what we show you how to develop from the beginning. I think the problem is once people get into that comfort stage, or what I would call the boring stage, some people actually like that stage. I think it provides, like we say, like it's called the comfort stage, some comfort. But passion is where it's at, I think. I have a guy that I work with now, and he is in love with his wife. I mean, they've been married for about 5 years, and you'd swear they've been married for 2 months. They just met or something. Because there is an intense passion that they have for each other. The reason is because they truly have been working on their relationship from the moment they decided to be in one.
Right. And that's what we show people how to do. And it's not done just one way. There are multiple ways that you can do it. And we touched on that 2 weeks ago and maybe a couple of sentences last week. But you can do this in so many different ways, but you have to understand that there is no quantifying desire.
Yeah.
There is no way of doing it. You can understand how to develop it. You can understand where it comes from a little bit. Desire is different between men and women. We get into that in the course because that's like freaking huge. But there is no magic technique or any guarantee that can be made. Just because every person and relationship is different. There's this state between two people who also have their own state of being. So you have person one has their state of being. Person two has their state of being. And when they come together, the relationship has its own state of being that's going to sway one way or the other, depending on how each of the people feel.
Yeah.
But what we do know is that if you have an understanding of these small areas, all of the other little instruments, and by having different types of conversations like we talked about 2 weeks ago, where what turns me off and what turns me on, not what you can do for me, but how do I feel that either turns me on or turns me off? That's a conversation worth having. And you stand a much better chance of developing connections and relationships where passion and desire exist, evolve, and grow every day.
Yeah. I mean, let's be completely honest. Everyone wants to feel connected, known, accepted. Everybody wants to feel secure. Everybody wants to feel seen. And we all want a sense of purpose, and we definitely all want to be respected. And that's just a short list of what people want and don't exactly know how to articulate when they start feeling these things, especially when it comes to talking to their partner, when you feel like you don't exist or you're not fading or you're misunderstood. I think the reason we focus so heavily on this kind of thing and communication is because there is nothing more frustrating than not being able to express how you feel with words. You ever been so upset, like, and you're trying to use words, but you just start crying? That is the kind of thing we teach so that it doesn't look like you're just raging or you're completely not able to control your emotions. We're trying to help you articulate everything so that really you don't end up like that. Because I mean, before I was able to communicate very well, I just cry. I just get so frustrated. My words leave me. I'd say the thing to remember is that these feelings aren't just tasks manufactured by you going around and accomplishing specific tasks for everyone else. It's all of the other small things that you also pay attention to while you take care of the task. So you are valid. And when you feel these things, you need to be able to address them. So we definitely try and help you out as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, this isn't just going around and, oh, well, if I take the trash out, then maybe they'll notice and maybe we'll be able to cuddle tonight or have sex tonight. You don't just go around and I did A, B, C, and D, sex time.
Right.
It's not how it works. There's all the other little things. Think of it back to our band analogy. For a band to have a hit song, there's a lot that goes into it. You have the timbre, the pitch, the overtone, the melody, harmony, rhythm, structure, texture, tempo, and articulation. And then they record the song, but it's not just playing the instruments. Bands actually have a different selection of microphones that they use. They have a certain microphone for the lead singer. They have a set of microphones, maybe 2 or 3 different microphones that they use for the drums, and maybe 2 for the lead guitar, and another different brand altogether for the bass guitar. Then there's also the placement of the microphones and the volume of each instrument being recorded. Then you have the mixing and all those small elements that go into enhancing the song itself. And then on top of that, you have the mastering. And all of that is for a 3.5-minute song that once recorded may never change. We're talking about a relationship that has all of that in it that can last a lifetime, but it's going to change as 2 people grow and evolve.
I agree, obviously. It does. A lot of work goes into mastering songs, by the way. So, yeah, there's not a better analogy there. But I think one of the best things you can do is, like, look at yourself through your partner's eyes, and then kind of give your partner what they want, not what you want back in return. If you're going to be in a successful relationship, it takes work. And this is something that you're going to have to learn how to do. You're going to have to look at yourself through that person's eyes, especially if you've already messed up. So let's say we are in the middle of the song and the bass guitar breaks, and now we have to come back and do things. So now we have to go back and listen to these issues and all of these things like that. You have to really take yourself and put yourself through the eyes of your other bandmates and say, how did I let them down? And you realize how you let them down, and you apologize on how you let them down, and then you not only make sure you get your guitar fixed, but maybe make sure you have some extra strings. So you're giving them back what they want from you and not something you expect in return. You're not living a selfish life. You're not living this relationship. It's not just for you. It's for both of you. And you're trying to do your best to make everyone happy. And if your partner's not doing the same, obviously there's a different conversation, but we're speaking to you and only you at this point.
Right. And when you do this, usually the other person picks up on it and they try to do the same thing back, especially if they care about you. Because this is one of those things that I consistently do. If I get into an argument, I can't hash it out right then and there. I need to step back and look at it from all different angles and views. And a lot of times what I realize is where I contributed to everything that happened in that argument. The more they pushed, the more I dug my heels in and the more I attacked back.
Right.
That's my part of the argument. Not saying that I was completely wrong, not saying that they were completely wrong, but that was my contribution. But we have the question of how do we know what they really want? Well, we don't know because we never talked about it. And too many of us never try to see what the other person sees. So the result is that most of us only give what we want to receive. So I want sex. So that's pretty much what I'm going to do. I'm going to go for sex. I want a kiss. I want to go for a kiss, and they better kiss me back. I clean up the car. They better clean the house. That's usually how things work, and it really doesn't work.
It doesn't work like that. Yeah. It's temporary, and that kind of transactional thing works if you're in an understood transactional relationships. That's what we talk about. We completely validate transactional relationships, but I think most people listening and most people who are going to be doing the coursework, they want sort of a more what's the word I'm looking for? Substantial relationship. And so our secret sauce is developing erotic intimacy. Just to clarify, we're not really talking about sex, though. not in the physical sense. It's not about how long or how many orgasms, how hard, how many positions, or what you do. That's none of our business, and we don't really care what you do.
Yeah.
None of that matters at all. Let me be completely clear. The physical act is something that you do.
Yeah.
How long have people been having sex? Like
for centuries.
Right.
Yeah. We would not be here if somebody wasn't doing the horizontal mambo at some point in time back before recorded time. That's
right.
The more important question is, where do each of you go in your mind before, during, and after all of the physical stuff? And we kind of touched on that 2 weeks ago. Sex is something that is done as far as the physical thing. But really, don't look at it as something that you do. Look at it as someplace that you go.
Yeah.
Here's 2 questions that you need to ask yourself. When you love, how does that feel? Now, think about that for a second, because I'm about to ask you the second one. This, for most people, when we ask this, when we're doing one-on-one coaching, when we ask this, you kind of see this look come over them. So when you love, how does that feel? Now, when you desire, how is that different? Now, which one of those would you like for your partner to have for you? And which would you like to have for your partner? Would you like just the love, or would you like the desire? Most of you are like, well, I want both. I want to desire them and love them. I want the glue, but I also want to
that spark.
That spark.
That need. That does. Yeah, exactly. With everything we do, guess where it starts, guys? Because everything we do starts with the same person every time. It starts with you every time. And
now the question becomes, how do we bridge the gap between both of those? So that
is the question.
Yeah. So now this is where you come in.
Hi. Yeah, everything we do, everything we talk about, every exercise we are going to do from this part forward, guys, I'm going to just give you a heads up. It starts with you. You have to be comfortable with who you are. We cover this in our course. We cover this on the show. We cover this in Facebook posts. We will cover this if you send us a message. It starts with you. Our first question is always, who are you? Tell us about yourself. Because if you aren't comfortable with who you are, anything we do going forward is going to be backtracked once you get scared. And that's just the truth. But in the upgraded course here, we are looking to really include a section that is setting the stage for building intentional, lasting relationships. It was like usually our one-on-one kind of thing. Like, if you really, really want this, we didn't want to discount everyone, but we realized that people are looking for this. This is what you guys are asking us for. So we're going to give it to you, and we're going to be thorough, and we're going to make sure that you have everything you need, because so many of you really, we saw the need. So we're saying, hey, let's fill it. Yeah.
It's one of those things that it's a lot easier to do in person because you get that instant feedback, and we're able to do a lot more in person, especially when we're sitting down and we're doing this for an entire week. We're not going anywhere. So the only thing I really ask is that I have more than a sleeping bag because that kind of gets uncomfortable. Otherwise, I'm going to be coming to your door at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm not kidding. If I'm going to be somewhere else, I'm waking up super damn early, and we're starting work at 4 o'clock in the morning. So
absolutely, we are.
So the hardest part of this block of what we're including is looking at your own relationship life. If you're able to do this before you even come to us, if you're able to break down how it was growing up as a little kid and then moving all the way through all of the different relationships you've had up to the point in which you go, hey, I want to work with you guys, you will be way ahead of the curve. And you're probably saying, well, why is this? Because, because if you can tell us how you were loved in your past relationships, we can tell you how you create and make love. You love how you were loved.
Yeah. If you grow up in a home where love wasn't really expressed, you'll have problems expressing it, obviously. And if you grow up where trust was an issue, you'll have problems trusting people. If sex was like a really dirty thing, of course, you're going to be a little more prudish, and you might even have problems even thinking about the concept of sex, let alone actually doing some of the nastier stuff.
Yeah.
And it's important to acknowledge, at least, and be honest with yourself. Say, okay, I grew up like this, and this is where I have a disconnect with the concept of love, and this is where I'd like to correct it. And this is the things that make me uncomfortable about being trusting, and these are the things that make me uncomfortable about this and this and this. When you're able to really focus and start to understand what you will and will not accept, it becomes a lot easier to let people into your life. And vice versa, there's some people who it's going to be extremely hard, but you gotta let them go. You gotta say, all right, well, now that I've grown here, I can't allow this person in my life anymore. And it's going to hurt, but it's usually worth it.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I've had to do it where I'm starting to really move forward, not only in my professional life, but also just in my concept of thinking and more of the critical thinking, as evidenced by the insane amount of research that I do. But there's a lot of people that they don't get it. And they actually start to try and hold me back. Oh, dude, don't worry about it. Just come on out and have some fun. Do I have time for that? But I don't have time now. And then they start just pounding on me about, you're not this, you're not that. Okay, now you need to go.
Right, because clearly we have issues and you don't understand my boundaries.
Right. And if you're not going to respect my boundaries, then we really have a problem. But to get back to the topic of our show here, to build desire, you have to have erotic intimacy. Erotic intimacy is a binder that lives between love and desire. It also lives between desire and the physical act of sex. It's going to make a whole lot more sense here in just a couple minutes. But to get to this point, you need to accept your past and become comfortable with it. Not saying dismiss it. There's a lot of people out there, they've had some really bad stuff happen to them. And it's not something that they can just let go, but they need to accept it. And the more accepting you are of it, the more comfortable you become with it.
Yeah.
I can testify to this. I've had some pretty bad stuff happen to me, and it hurt. But I was able to look at it, and the more I looked at it, the more I processed it. Some of it, I had to go to counseling, I had to go to therapy in order to have a different perspective come in on it. But with that, I was able to become more comfortable with it. Now, when I think back on it, it doesn't hurt as much. Some of it doesn't hurt at all. I'm just like, well, fuck, that sucked. So for some of you, this is going to be rather easy. Some of you will find it difficult. For others, it will be painful. And
extremely painful.
For some of you, you may need to do like I did and seek professional help. Every person is different. We are not doctors. We are not therapists. We're not psychotherapists. We have no degrees in this field as far as helping people through traumatic experiences.
All right.
So you need to understand that if you come to us, you could have a situation that is beyond what we can do. Please go seek help.
Always. And never feel ashamed to reach out and say, hey guys, I live here. Can you help me find a good qualified therapist? We're always here to help you. That's why we say it starts with you, and we are here to help you, so that if you ever feel the need, like that this is beyond this and it's deeper than what this course is giving you, just, it's okay. People go through things. Life isn't easy for everyone.
Yeah.
This isn't something you just do in your head. That's the easy way out. And it doesn't help really much of anything.
Right. We could tell you to go back and think about all this stuff and do it in your head. But as I just said, that's the easy way out. And it's not going to help your relationship move forward, or even a potential relationship isn't going to really develop the way that most people envision their relationships. This is a discussion that you're going to have with your partner. So yes, it means you're going to allow yourself to be vulnerable. You're going to have to share how you felt, how it still makes you feel, how it affects your actions and decisions, and possibly how it holds you back from trying new things that you might want to try or you are curious about. Not an easy discussion to have.
It's not. And it's not fun. But once you have it, it's so liberating and it's so worth it. And there's a couple things you want to keep in mind as you go through this. When you're having this conversation, you're actively engaged. Try not to be politically correct. Don't follow social norms. And the reason we say that is if you speak your language and you speak clearly and you speak articulately, you don't have to worry about anything being misconstrued. Political and social norms don't really have a place in your relationship or your bedroom. Intimacy is not a friend. These things, if you're constantly worried about what you're saying and you can't be honest and open about who you are with that person, then you need to go back and start the conversation there. Your intimacy is about what makes you guys happy and not how you guys can avoid triggering each other.
And if you can't have these types of conversations with the person you are with, then I would actually be asking you, why are you with them? If you can't trust them that much, then why are you with them?
Yeah.
Your trust level should be to the point that you're able to talk openly and honestly about everything without having to worry about, oh, I can't say this because that's not what society does. Fuck society. This is you. This is your relationship. What does society have to do with it?
Yeah.
There's archaic laws still on the books. For all of you living in Virginia, if you're not married, you're committing a felony by having sex.
That's true. Oh, dude, yes. We should do a show on this because there are some fucked up ass laws about relationships. There's one about marrying your cousin, and I'm not going to say where, but I bet you can guess the location. It's legal.
Yeah, there's actually a law here in Louisiana where 4 women, or any more than 4 women, cannot live in the same house without a male present. It's considered a bordello.
That is awesome. I love that. Before we get off topic, let's switch back here. But we definitely have to do the show because that's amazing.
Yeah. Now, the benefit of doing this and having these conversations is that they will know why you do what you do, say what you say, or act the way that you do. You can share what you like, what you want to do, and what you are uncomfortable with. With this, you are building that trust, security, and acceptance that pretty much everybody wants in their relationship. Yeah. So why wouldn't you take the actions that you need to take in order to deepen those?
Yeah. I mean, it's your choice, really. But you need to have the conversation whether you want to or not.
Yes. There's no way around it. If you want that deep connection, you want that intimacy that bridges between desire and passion, love and desire, that gap that sits in between, you need to have the conversations. However, I am going to throw out this warning that you kind of need to be aware of. If you're in a relationship with someone who you do not have a connection with, or with someone who shows signs of being overly needy or narcissistic, do not think that opening up to them is going to fix anything. It's not. I can promise you that. It will end badly, and the only thing you have done is given them an arsenal of weapons to use against you later. Yeah. So if you're not sure that they are the person, if you're not sure if they're the person, do not go down that path with them until you are sure.
Yeah, I would not. Anyone, and this is the God's honest truth, you are just giving them fuel, like John said, and you have to be comfortable with your past to have this conversation. And you can have it in, I like to have conversations like this at nighttime, close to bed, so that everyone has to be in sleep by... No, I'm just kidding. But you could have the conversation. It can be like super long, one of those really long, deep conversations that 2 people have. It can be something you do over lunch a couple times. It can be something you do over a couple days. But it doesn't matter. You need to have it. It's not an option.
How you do it is completely up to you. For me, it depends on the person that I'm with. Some people I can sit down and we just had that connective moment where we are sharing not really huge secrets, but it's not something we're just going to like tell our coworkers. Just like slightly more personal stuff. And then as the conversation continues, start to open up a little bit more, and it turns into this like marathon, oh shit, I got to get ready for work because it's the next day kind of conversation. Or it could be, right. I see them, we share a little bit, and then the next time we see them, we pretty much pick up it right where we left off. So it's up to you how you're going to do this.
Uh-huh. It is very much so up to you. I guess we should probably flip this and say you've been in a relationship for years and you're married and you have 3 kids and the spark is gone. You've never really talked about how it felt growing up. You guys have never really given that deep dive or the past and how it's really affected you or any of that stuff. Do a handwritten letter. I like that suggestion a lot. Handwritten letters are always great.
The whole thing with just the old-fashioned pen to paper type of letter. It's a lot more personal and it's a lot more intimate. Pen and paper carries a lot more weight than something that you click print and it came off of a printer. And it vastly carries a lot more weight than an email. It just says that this is something that is important and that you spent time on it. And then you can leave it in an easy place that they can find. They can read it. They can take their time with it. They can think about it. And more than likely, they're more receptive to talking to you about it and also sharing with you.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
Don't be scared of talking about the relationship and the experiences you had before you got married.
Please.
Let's be honest. Most people have had sex with somebody else and they felt a deep love for somebody else before they wound up with the person that they married.
Yeah.
It's the 21st century, people. Come on. Let's get a little bit realistic here.
And you know how many people get married without telling their spouse that they were married before? It's not a super high number, but anything over one person is alarmingly high. And you have to talk about that. And I think the pen and paper thing, it really, really, really helps. I mean, if you're single, though, I would share this stuff with a close friend or a minister, counselor, therapist, whatever, someone who you can trust and confide in. I think both of us can agree that it's best to do within your circle.
Yeah, that's something that I really recommend is getting with one of the people from your inner circle. These are your friends, brother or your sister, whoever it is. They're the ones that know you the best and they care about your well-being. But if you don't have a wide net of people that you can go to a minister, talk to a counselor, go to a therapist. I mean, find somebody that you can relay these to. And all it does is it helps you solidify everything because this is a very important step that if you don't do this, you are not going to become the person that you want to become. You're not going to become that entire attractive package that we're talking about. That element is going to be missing and it's going to be noticeable. And especially when we do like our end of course retreats.
Yeah.
When everybody comes together, I can sit back and a lot of people who have been through the course and the ones that have done the work, they can instantly identify the people who have not done this. It is that obvious. Now, it's not going to be obvious to the person on the corner.
That's very true.
But as time goes on, they're going to realize there's something missing. They're not as open as I thought they were going to be. It starts to become obvious.
Right. We can tell. We can always tell if you've done it or if you haven't.
Yeah. Okay. So now you have everything laid out. Everything's laid out before you and your partner. You have the entire deck of cards is sitting there and they're all face up. There's no secrets. So now what do you do? Well, here's where you have to keep an open mind. Okay. If you haven't been keeping an open mind until this point, here's where you need to keep an open mind. Your partner is going to ask questions and they are probably going to have a few comments. Do not assume that they are attacking you. If they truly care about you, they are trying to understand, not attack.
I agree. And this comes with the whole mental stability thing and being an adult. Like, it can feel like that, especially if you're being extremely vulnerable and they ask a question and you weren't expecting that question. It can feel like judgment. But the thing is, if you have enough trust in that person to allow them to see this part of you and be this vulnerable with you, then you need to trust that they're only asking for clarification. They're not asking to make fun of you. They're not asking to hurt you or anything like that.
Yeah. Remember, try to see yourself through their eyes. This is a part of you that they probably haven't seen before. Remember that whole good boy, bad boy thing that I was talking about a couple weeks ago? Here you go. Think of this as when we're describing how people like the rough edges. These are your rough edges. So let me see if I can think of a metaphor. Think of a coconut, okay? A lot of people, they like holding coconuts. It's kind of fuzzy, but it's rock hard. Well, they like that hard, rough exterior, the rough edges. But what they really want is to get to that soft, sweet inner part. This is where you're showing that soft inner part. They're able to crack the outside shell and get to know what's inside. They're able to experience it.
Yeah.
And when they begin to share with you, again, be sure not to attack them or become angry at whatever decisions they made in the past. You are not them. You do not have the same experiences. You didn't go to the same schools. You didn't grow up in the same house. You didn't have the same friends. Everything was completely different. How can you judge them if you were not them in that situation, feeling the pressures, the social pressures, and everything else that they were experiencing at that time? Remember, anything that they did, the decisions that they made are part of what made the person you see before you.
Yeah.
All of those experiences that they had attracted you to them.
To this person. And I think it can be scary whether you're on the giving or receiving end of this conversation. It shouldn't even be like a giving or receiving end. You both should be having this conversation together. But if you are the person who's listening, listen intently, try and understand, maybe put yourself in their shoes. And then once you guys finally have that conversation, I guess the next question is, what do you do now?
Yeah. So, now what?
Yeah, right. Now what, dude? We've already talked about it. You know that I used to lick my toes in second grade. And the truth is, now that you have this deep understanding for one another, you have a foundation for erotic intimacy, for desire, for passion, and all of those things you want to build upon. And you can really take your relationship from just being sexual satisfaction to being complete and utter understanding. Yeah, relationship satisfaction. It's not more.
And you want to unlink that relationship satisfaction from the sexual satisfaction. The two coexist. They are not reliant upon each other. Okay? It's a mistake that a lot of people make, is that believing that love and relationship satisfaction relies upon the sexual satisfaction. If the sex is bad, then the relationship has to be bad. Or more modern context, no sex, no relationship.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times divorces happen because there is no sex. That's so if the sex is bad, then the relationship also tanks. We're not saying to have a sexist relationship or marriage. Physical sex is something that everyone needs.
Right.
A bad way of putting it is that once you have it, you're addicted. That's pretty much it.
That's why people don't stop. That's why people will put up with a lot of stuff. Yeah, dude,
we're just sexual creatures. Let's admit it.
It is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So what we are asking is, what if the physical sex can become where your mind connects with your body, and then you desire to share your body with your partner?
Yeah, that just takes it to an entirely new experience. Yeah.
Yes.
Whole new level, whole new experience. And it is the definition, it changes your brain schemas to a certain degree. That's not even a joke. Yeah. It redefines your concept of intimacy.
Oh, yes. And if you have never experienced where your mind connects to your emotions and through those to your body, and then all you want to do is share, kind of selfish, but all you want to do is share your body with them. Fuck what they're doing. Don't care. You're getting it, and you're going to get all of it. You hear about those earth-shattering orgasms?
Hear about them.
No.
I live them. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah.
talking, we're going to shift the galaxy type orgasms.
Right. Like we're talking, you have never lived. Okay. Yeah. Like you don't even know what you're experiencing. And I think before we get too further into it, we might want to define it. This way we can kind of, because now we're just kind of thinking too hard. And we should try to define it for everyone so that we're all on the same page, really. For the most part, erotic and intimacy are two different words for physical sex, and we should just get rid of that right now. It's not true. It's not anything.
Yeah, if you actually look up the word erotic and you look up the word intimacy, two completely different definitions, and really physical sex is not really in there.
Right.
That's why they call it erotica.
Not erotic us.
Yes.
Funny.
Erotic intimacy is a state of being. So think of it as a way of being in touch with your sexual emotions. It's a way of expressing your passion without having physical sex. So in other words, you are present and intentional in the moment. Now, we talked about this way back in season 2 with elevating your kiss. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, a kiss is a quote unquote physical sexual act. However, when we talked about being present in the moment on that episode, this is what we're talking about.
Absolutely. There's no better time to be present, by the way.
Yes.
The desire will fulfill the core basic needs of your relationship, and it'll feed the feeling of love. It'll give you that idea that you're in love. And then the erotic intimacy will feed the desire, and together they'll feed the passion that can lead to the physical. And I know it sounds confusing, but we'll clarify. I think John could probably better clarify it than I can.
Well, let's break it down so that you know where we are so far and how all this works together. So the first part is you accept and become comfortable with your past relationships, and how you were loved back then is going to be how you express your love today. Now, you can change that, however, and we cover that in the course. Now, you share these with your partner and you have a conversation about it. You're both sharing openly and honestly about your past so that there's an understanding between both of you. This builds the acceptance, the trust, and the security. Now, you are no longer linking love, relationship, or marital happiness or the satisfaction of those on physical, sexual satisfaction. Now, erotic intimacy is also not physical sex. It's about being present and intentional in the moment. So the reason you go through all of this is so that you can give yourself permission to be playful and curious. Erotic intimacy is always going to be about the playfulness, that knowing glance, the subtle remark, the light touch or caress that happens in the moment. It's about giving your partner a glimpse of the side of you that they have not seen before or that they rarely see.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're going to shift their perception of you ever so slightly.
Just a little bit, not too much.
Yeah, because we always grow, we're always evolving, we have new experiences. We've said it before, my 20-year-old self is not the same person as my 25-year-old self, wasn't the same as my 30-year-old self, and it's definitely not my 185-year-old self. Okay. So, we all grow. We all have new experiences. You get a new job. You get a pay raise. You move to a new city. You move, whatever it is, you grow.
Mm-hmm.
Show them these things.
Yeah.
These small little moments built up over a few hours, a day, several days, causes a person to start imagining the touching, the holding, the kissing, the caressing, and you imagine the same thing about them. 2 weeks ago, me and this girl, we talked and we do this. We have these little moments, and I look across the room and I can see it in her eyes because, well, we're wearing masks, so that's all I got is her eyes. And instead of her being able to mouth words, what she does, she kind of shakes her hips. And I know exactly what she's saying. And I give her this little wave and a wink, and we're imagining all of that stuff, the touching, the holding, the kissing, pressing. That's that erotic intimacy. Build the sexual desire without having physical sex.
Yeah, imagine that. And it can also build a desire for closeness. I mean, I don't know if anyone's ever felt this before, but there's people in this world who you just want to be like close to. Like, even if you're not touching them or doing it, you just like being next to the person and tracing the lines with their palms and just looking at them, resting your head on their chest and all the romantic gobbledygook that makes you cry in a movie. Dance parties in the living room, all of that stuff. You just want to be near them. I mean, even helping doing the dishes. And most people hate dishes. I think dishes are ranked number 1 in the worst chore, dishes and laundry. But you just want to be able to do all those things with that person, just so you can do them together, and it helps build those type of moments.
Yeah, even just doing the dishes, it's just, you have that little moment between, I don't know, loading the dishwasher or passing the dish, and it's that glance, it's that touch of the hand. It's just that one little moment where you're like, I just want to ravish you right now.
Yeah.
That's what's going through your head, and they pick up on that. And when you have this erotic intimacy and the physical act of sex that comes about with that, you're able to go to that place in your mind where you can free yourself and connect with your body in new ways. You can express and share yourself with your partner differently. Trust me, you get to this and they're going to know something is different. They're not going to be able to put their fingers on it, but they're like,
where did you
holy
learn this?
Shit.
Yep.
And then when they are able to do the same thing with you, so the physical sex is no longer something that you do. It's a place that you go by yourself and together.
Yeah.
Kind of see how this works?
Yeah. One area just feeds another. It's like I guess it's not really like a snowball. It's just that nice little flow chart. They're not separate and individual from each other. You can't just fix one of them without fixing the other.
And this is something that a lot of relationship therapists realized, because they thought, well, you fix the relationship, you fix the sex. Well, that's not exactly what happened. And you really can't fix the sex in order to fix the relationship. That's going backwards. The relationship, the sex is a result of the relationship. So they hit this dichotomy. And what they started to realize, and it really wasn't until the 90s. So this is where we're getting our stuff. It wasn't really until the 90s that they started to realize they had to fix both at the same time, but they didn't exactly know how. They didn't know where they had to go with it. And it's that erotic intimacy. That was the key that was missing, that bridges between love and desire, and between desire and the physical act.
Yeah.
You can read about it. It's we'll have the references in our course. But it's there's what was it? It was a couple thousand different journals, a bunch of references, pages,
and that's the thing. You can read all our sources. We make sure to fact check everything. It's going to be really interesting to go through, I would say.
It's going to be interesting to go through. You're definitely going to need a medical dictionary, because
I needed one.
Yeah.
Luckily, we have them.
Yeah. I mean, there's this great thing called Google, but when you're trying to type out a 15-letter word that you can't even properly get your mouth around, it's one of those things. We just put it all there for you so that you can go out and read it for yourself if you want. And it's a lot of stuff. But here's one of the kickers that we're going to have to leave you with, because this only happens to be one pillar of erotic intimacy. It can help build a lasting relationship. This is like the foundation pillar. If you think of like a bridge, you have the center column, which is going to bear most of the weight, and then the pillars on the side actually kind of just pick up the additional shifts in weight. This is the most difficult one that a lot of people face. This is why we're sharing it with you. And it's the one area that we begin with early in our course. So by the time you reach one of those later sections, a lot of the work for this has already been done. Mm-hmm. But if you can do this before you even come to us, the remaining of the work is a lot easier. So in our coursework, we're building it out to have 3 additional pillars that can really solidify your relationship to make it last a lifetime, if that is what you want to do.
Now, what do you think those pillars are? I think this would be fun. Write us in and tell us what you think those other 3 pillars are. if you're close, we'll probably work out some sort of weird prize for you. But we really, like I said, guys, it's all about getting interactive. That's our number one goal for this year, for this season, is to get people interacting with us, getting people talking, and getting you guys interacting with each other. And the more we can do that, the more fun it'll be for us, the more fun it'll be for you. Always like, rate, share, subscribe. Tell everyone you know about the show. Make sure that you're constantly looking out for updates on our course, on our website, and everything that we're going to do.
Right. And now we have a couple of shows that we're kind of tossing around right now. We haven't made up our minds as to what we're going to bring you next week. I'm kind of leaning a little bit towards the difference between how guys think and how women think, because I have some stuff that when I was explaining it the other day, I was pretty much told you're full of shit. And then I pulled out the research and they were like, so I've been wrong for the last 37 years.
Right. 300 years since research began.
Yeah. There's a lot of myths out there that a lot of people believe. So I'm kind of leaning that way, but I'm not really sure. There's a couple of things that people are writing in. We do have a couple of questions that we've kind of been putting off. So we might cover those. If you're interested, let us know which one you want us to go with. Know the difference between the guys and girls, or do you want some straight answers to some questions that you guys are asking? And if you've asked the question, you can't vote to have your own question answered.
Right. Be honest, people. We're watching you. But yeah, as always, like I said, like, rate, share, subscribe, tell your mom, tell your friend. Make sure you're writing us in anything you want to know, any clarity you want to know. If you want to be on the show, say, hey guys, I think I want to be on the show.
We'll do it the best we can.
Maybe.
Yeah. We do have a couple people that they've expressed interest in coming on the show. We're doing our best with that. Our schedule right now is packed. We're trying to get the stuff out to you that you said you wanted to know. So
yeah,
you want to know the secret sauce? Not last week's episode, the week before.
All of it.
There it is. If you want to know what separates us from everybody else, this is it. And
that's it.
Yeah, if they haven't done their homework and read a few thousand journals, yeah, they don't have this anywhere. So there you go. And with that, we will talk to you on the next one.
That's all for this episode of the Girls Ask Guys show, where all of us learn to master this thing called life together. For more answers to your questions on life and love, be sure to subscribe to the show so you don't miss a single episode. And head to girlsaskguyshow.com to submit your questions for a future episode or apply to be a guest on the show. Good luck out there, and we'll catch you next time, right here on the Girls Ask Guys show.